Good evening. I would like to call to order the Kaiser City Council in regular session. It is Tuesday, September 6th, 2022, and ask our city recorder to please call roll.
Councilor Herrera.
Here.
Councilor Reed.
Here.
Councilor Kohler.
Here.
Mayor Clark.
Here.
Council President Smith.
Here.
Councilor Starr.
Here.
Councilor Duran.
Here.
And Youth Councilor Angelica Sarmiento, excuse me. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I would like to invite now Scout, who is here for our meeting this evening, to introduce himself. If you will come up to the microphone, and then I will ask you all to rise, and he will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Yes, so raise that microphone and tell us who you are and what troop you're with and what badge you're here for.
Am I on?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Hello, my name is Adam Rigg. I'm from Troop 19 in South Salem, and I'm working on the Citizenship and the Community Merit Badge.
All right, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, would you all rise and join Adam in the Pledge of Allegiance, if you would lead us off.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you very much. And thank you for joining us this evening. This evening we have some special orders of business, and it's my pleasure to lead off with the Hispanic Heritage Month Proclamation, which reads as follows. Whereas the theme for the 2022 Hispanic Heritage Month observance, as announced by the National Council of Hispanic Employment Program Managers, is Unidos, Inclusivity for a Stronger Nation. And whereas the theme invites us to celebrate Hispanic heritage and to reinforce the need to ensure diverse voices and perspectives are welcomed in decision-making processes, thereby helping to build stronger communities and a stronger nation. And whereas Ms. Irene Matos Chan, a senior information technology manager in the Square Tech Computer Repair and Training Center for the Castle Square Tennis Organization, submitted the winning theme, stating, I am biracial and I wanted to represent my Hispanic culture and the Hispanic countries. I want people to connect their Hispanic culture and show it and express it to their community. The 2022 Hispanic Heritage Month poster expresses that you should be proud of your race no matter what it is, and be proud to show it and represent it. And whereas each year Americans observe National Hispanic Heritage Month by celebrating the contributions and importance of Hispanics and Latinos to the United States and those community members whose ancestors came from Spain and Mexico and nations in the Caribbean, Central America, and South America. And whereas we, the people of the city of Kaiser, recognize and celebrate the contributions and achievements of our Hispanic and Latino community members to our city and our region, and we dedicate ourselves to working together to address the challenges that still face Hispanic Oregonians in equity and access to the prosperity of Oregon. Now, therefore, I, Kathy Clark, Mayor of the City of Kaiser, together with the Kaiser City Council assembled in regular session, do hereby proclaim September 15 through October 15, 2022 as Hispanic Heritage Month, and encourage all the people of Kaiser to join in this observance and celebration. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Kaiser to be affixed the 6th day, September 2022. So this is going to be posted, and I would like to give the second copy to Councilor Herrera, who has continued to remind us that Mexican Independence Day and the heritage is not Cinco de Mayo. Councilor Herrera, would you mind everybody once again the significance of September 15th?
Okay, there's a little history too.
A little history, please.
1968, President, I believe it was Johnson, actually, it started off as a week. 1 week, Hispanic Heritage Week, and President Reagan in 2000, they couldn't have done it in 2000, 1988, expanded to a month, and this is to celebrate the culture, the contributions, and the history of the Hispanic population in America. And it's been growing quite a bit. In case you haven't noticed, I was at the fair this weekend, and I sure noticed. So anyway, I think it's a great thing, and Cinco de Mayo has nothing to do with Independence Day. Cinco de Mayo is a whole different thing, but it's okay to celebrate both, you know. So And I thank this council, and I appreciate the history that we've contributed, and thanks for the proclamation.
Thank you. Councilor Rivera,
Oh, well, thank you.
would you
very
accept
much.
this?
Oh, wow. Oh, my gosh, I'm honored.
Thank you.
you very much. Sorry. Oh.
Let's get a picture.
Very sad.
All right, don't get my head, please.
I could say something.
Don't do it. I got wavy hair. It's waving goodbye.
Thank you. Our second proclamation this evening is one that is annually requested by the Daughters of the American Revolution, and one I am happy to write and sign. And I'd like to invite Ruby Pantalone come up and tell us about Constitution Week and the Daughters of the American Revolution, of which my grandmother was actually a member. And then we will read the proclamation.
Right. As we all know, our Constitution is really an important thing that we need to make sure that we follow every year. The Anna Maria Pittman chapter was formed in December of 1985, and we are a Kaiser group. And then we have things that we do. The ones that can join are women over 18, and as they just have to prove their blood lineage to someone that participated in the American Revolution. Now, they didn't have to fight in the American Revolution, but I have an ancestor that actually donated a horse, and so I could get in the DAR with that one. So I have several different ones. And we are a non-political group, and we do help out we send cookies, things like that to our military, and we collect things for our veterans, then we also, there's Children's of the American Revolution and Sons of the American Revolution. This year we also gave an award to one of the seniors at Blanchard High School, and we gave an award to one of the outstanding students in the ROTC at McNary High School. So that's just a few of the things that we have done.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for sending this request each year to remind us to remember, read, and honor the Constitution. The proclamation reads as follows. Whereas the Constitution of the United States of America embodies the foundational principles of limited government in a republic dedicated to rule by law. And whereas September 17, 2022 marks the 235th anniversary of the Constitutional Convention in 1787, at which the Constitution of the United States was written. And whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document upon its anniversary, and to read it, to remember how our government was established and freedoms it guaranteed. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designated September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week. Now therefore I, Kathy Clark, Mayor of the City of Keizer, together with the Kaiser City Council assembled in regular session, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17 through 23, 2022 as Constitution Week, and ask our citizens to affirm the ideals, the framers of the Constitution, by being vigilant in protecting our liberty. And Ruby, would you accept this for the Daughters of the American Revolution?
Yes, I would.
Thank you for
Thank
all your
you.
work.
Oh, you're welcome.
like to be here.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Also tonight, you may have noticed in roll call, we have one new council member, and we have the youth counselor for 2022-2023, and that is Angelica Sarmiento. Welcome. We're happy to have you here. Would you please introduce yourself, what year you are in school, and just a little bit about what your interest in is in being a youth counselor. I can't go on vacation.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Angelica Sarmiento Vendaño. I'm a junior at McNary High School, and I was interested in this position to be able to help my community more. I was co-president of the Community Service Club, and I wanted to expand my aid throughout the community.
Well, thank you very much. Welcome. Well, we are looking very much to getting to know you this year, and hope you get to know us, and that we can work together and do some great things for the youth in our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So that takes us now to committee reports. I have Rhonda Rich to talk about the West Kaiser Neighborhood Association. Or did you want to do that under public testimony? Okay, I will put you there. Hirsch Sangster, the Northwest Kaiser Neighborhood Association update.
Why are you wearing orange?
Because we won.
Their team showed up.
Well put.
Oh, you
I
asked
said
for
Jim.
that. Quick, before we get further into that last weekend.
No.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council members. I'm Hirsch Sangster and Jonathan Thompson from the Northwest Kaiser Neighborhood Association. We're kind of one of the new kids on the block, so to speak. And since we were formed in our first meeting, May 18th, we've had 3 good general meetings. We meet on the 3rd Wednesday at 7 o'clock here at City Hall. We've had pretty good attendance from 12 to 15 community members. We've had great support from 2 of the city councilors that have been there to help break things. Our city manager has been there. It's been a good, we're finished by 8:30, but we covered a lot of material during that time. This next few months, we're going to be having speakers on not only the library issues, we may have some candidate forums and maybe in October, because McNary High School and Keizer Elementary are part of our service area. Eric Jesperson's going to be at our November meeting to talk about McNary, how we can help and partner with each other. We're going to be trying to get the new principal from Kaiser, maybe after the first of the year. The meetings that we have had, we've had a wonderful presentation by Lieutenant Copeland from the Kaiser Police Department, and Storm from the Kaiser Fire Department, and subjects that we've talked about and probably will be talking about in the future are the stormwater and the swell issues that we have in our general area, fireworks. Never heard about fireworks, have you guys? And we'll be inviting various other people, the chamber, to talk how we can partner more with the chamber in the future. So just to kind of give an update of what we're doing, we're moving, and we just got signs to put up for our September meeting. So we're kind of moving ahead, and we're ready for beginning next year too. Any questions?
All right, thank you. Any questions? So, and you have a Facebook page, Instagram?
That's in process.
Okay,
We have an executive committee that doesn't use Facebook, so we're working on that.
Yeah.
oh dear.
You have cookies?
Well, fine. You might want to find somebody, to help set that up. It's a great way to communicate, but glad you're meeting here, and this is going well for getting started. All right, thank you very much. Anything else? Okay, thanks. Oh, when's your next meeting?
It'll be September 21st,
At
7 o'clock,
7 o'clock, we're right here.
right here.
All right, fantastic.
One other thing that's separate from this, while I had the forum, I just wanted to take 1 minute. Both Marianne and I would like to personally thank the city of Kaiser and its staff for helping through the process and even going a little step above in our memorial that we had for our son-in-law at the amphitheater. Tracy, Debbie, Tim, Robert, and his staff just kind of stepped up and said, what do you need? How can we help you? So we just want to personally thank. It was a beautiful day, humid, but it cooled off. The police department helped with getting the word out about because he was a sailor, the salute and taps down there was just amazing. And that amphitheater just echoed through the forest. So.
Wow.
But both of us wanted to make sure, thank you to all.
The city of Kaiser,
Yeah.
everybody.
Well, we are very, very sorry for your loss and glad that we as a community could just come alongside you.
Yeah.
We had kids from McNary High School parking cars. The sound system was done also by a student from McNary High School. And he worked for the state police, so there was tons of state police, and they wanted to know who was parking the cars because they were doing such a good job. McNary High School, so,
World class all the way.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here for a committee report before we go to public testimony that didn't sign in for a committee report? Okay, we are going to go to public testimony. I would like to offer courtesy to Commissioner Kevin Cameron to come on down and talk to us about the Marion County Reentry Initiative.
Mayor Clark, Council President Smith, and members of the council. It's Kevin Cameron, Marion County Commissioner. It's good to be here with you. You have such a really nice chamber. There's only 3 of us on Wednesdays, like tomorrow. It's just great to see all these people here and lots of people in the audience, community involvement. And what I wanted to come tonight and just basically say thank you and talk a little bit about the Marion County Reentry Initiative, our second chance breakfast that we've hosted. This will be the 14th annual, the 13th in person. I say that because we missed 2 years because of COVID. We missed 2020 and we missed 2021, but we made up for 21 in April of this year, and thank you for your support of that. And to get back on the normal cycle of our annual reentry or second chance breakfast, we are going to be hosting a breakfast here in your wonderful community center on October 27th at 7 o'clock in the morning, and the public is invited. It's a no cost breakfast to come up, and don't expect protein. It's usually just some muffins and fruit, and some people say, well, in fact, somebody said, well, we'll just hard-boiled eggs if people want protein. But in all seriousness, this is something that over the years, we usually raise about $20,000 to $30,000 per breakfast. And that money goes towards the reentry program. People who are given a second chance that have served their time and are coming out into us, back into the real world. And we all know to be successful in the real world, you need to have housing, education, a job. And so a lot of those things are dealt with within the programs we have. But if somebody comes out and needs glasses, or they need a driver's license, or those little miscellaneous things, the money that is raised during those breakfasts is used to help those people get those items that they need. And your involvement, the City of Kaiser involvement, this next breakfast, we're asking if you would, again, waive the fees for the rental of the conference room. And if that's an action that you take tonight, I want you to know that we are going to make the City of Kaiser a presenting sponsor, the presenting sponsor for this October. It's October 27th. And it's just a really honor to do this. I think most of us know Commissioner Carlson, Janet Carlson, who I'm going to have dinner with next Monday. She's going to be in town. Started this, I remember being in the basement of the state capitol when I was a state representative in 2005. And we started the Marion County Reentry Initiative way back then. And the programs that we run have reduced recidivism, meaning people going back to prison in 3 years out. We were at 40%, over 40% recidivism, and we're down into the 20s, which means our tax dollars, people's lives have been changed as a result of the Marion County Reentry Initiative. So I want to say thank you for your service. Those of you that are out on the streets, the law enforcement, and it's just a lot of work that everybody works together as a team to make this happen. So thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Any questions for Commissioner Cameron about the issue on the agenda tonight, or the Marion County Reentry Initiative itself? It's a fabulous program. I remember the late Senator Jackie Winters was also a powerhouse behind this program. She and her husband, her husband experienced that reentry and the ability to succeed with support, and the power with which he could tell his story and tell what a difference it makes when you have that second chance and the support to be successful. And I'm really proud to be a resident of Marion County, where we do that, and we do it well.
Yeah, Senator Winters' husband, late Ted Winters, wrote a book called Lifer, if you want a really good read. It's a great book to read. And I'd also, Madam Mayor, want to recognize Councilor Herrera for his service on the Public Safety Coordinating Council all these years, too. So, Roland, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, and you're on it, too. I'm sorry. Shaney? Yeah. So much involvement from this community in Marion County.
Don't forget Sandy.
Yeah, Kaiser has this habit of showing
And Chief
up.
Teague used to serve on that council for years.
Indeed. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for being here tonight, and we look forward to taking up this matter later in the agenda.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Appreciate your service.
Okay. Let's go from that to talking about traffic calming and West Kaiser Neighborhood Association. And Rhonda Rich, thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, councilors, and staff. I'm going to be talking about an item under administrative action. I'm president here representing the West Kaiser Neighborhood Association. I'm here tonight to present the West Kaiser Neighborhood Association's position on traffic calming devices on Cummings Lane and Shoreline Drive. As many of you know, the WCNA started a traffic blitz in January of this year. We reached out to over 300 households, inviting members to our January and February meetings. The streets included Sunset Avenue, Delight Street, Mandarin, Rafael, Cummings Lane, and Shoreline Drive. We also reached out to members on Facebook and Nextdoor. We had meetings in January and February with many concerns voiced for safety on our neighborhood streets and possible solutions. Those concerns can be found in our minutes on our website. We invited Chief Teague to the February meeting and asked where he sees a lot of traffic violations and what solutions he would recommend. He suggested several calming devices. One included a stop sign at Shoreline Drive and Dearborn, and a traffic table, not a speed bump or hump, somewhere along Cummings. The safety of Cummings Elementary School children has been a high priority for the West Kaiser residents for many decades. It is the oldest school in Kaiser, built in 1953. The streets and sidewalks reflect the architecture of a rural school, now surrounded by single-family homes. Several years ago, construction was completed along the west side of Delight Street, an asphalt walking path bordered by a fence, along with the completion of a sidewalk north to Dearborn, and then street widening of Delight increased the safety of the students walking from or to Cummings School and McNary High School. The WICNA worked with Bill Lawyer for 6 years on this project. We were happy to see children being able to walk to and from school on a safer street. We have always known that Cummings Lane is an unsafe street for children to walk or bike on to and from school. It is narrow with no designated sidewalks. Sidewalks make it clear, even to young children, where there is a safe place to walk. The city has said that right-of-way would have to be bought to widen the street for sidewalks and that it would be very expensive. Thus, nothing has been done. We saw a speed table as a less costly calming device to slow traffic by an elementary school where too many drivers exceed the speed limit and put our children's lives in jeopardy. I understand that there's some value in a speed study, but it doesn't take into account that we are talking about the safety of elementary school children. The consulting firm makes no mention of an elementary school fronting Cummings Lane. I think that the people who live in West Kaiser know best what can make our streets safer. I hope that what comes out of this meeting tonight is a decision to engineer safer streets through calming devices with the goal, and maybe not too distant future, of adding sidewalks to Cummings Lane. I hope that we never have to say, well, if we only did something, then that child or adult would be alive today. It is a very serious safety issue. We're asking that you install a traffic calming device on Cummings Lane and install a stop sign on Shoreline and Dearborn to deter excessive speeds on West Kaiser's main north-south route, and deter Google Maps with directing traffic onto Shoreline because there's no stop sign to slow drivers. So thank you for taking action to protect our children and citizens on our neighborhood streets. And I just want to mention, I did a little more research this evening while I was working on this, and we did mention speed tables. I know there's some concern with emergency vehicles. I think if there's some other devices, speed cushions, sounds like it might be an option too, just if you're going to be exploring other options, because they have the place for the emergency vehicles' wheels, but it slows down the car traffic. So, there are quite a few speed tables around in Kaiser, which I was surprised. Port Cummings Elementary School, it's the oldest school, and if you go around looking at the other schools, Kennedy has nice new sidewalks, and Kaiser, and so we feel our school and the street in front of it could use some attention. So, thank you.
All right, are there any questions for Ms. Rich? All right, thank you so much. And we will, for folks who are watching, we are going to be taking up this item under 8A on our agenda. All right, thank you. Next up is Mike de Blasi on the same topic.
Good evening. I'm Mike de Blasi, Kaiser resident. Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Councilors, City staff. I've come here tonight to share my thoughts on the DKS report for traffic calming on Cummings Lane and the installation of a four-way stop at the Shoreline Dearborn intersection. I will focus on the speed humps, but these comments apply to the four-way stop too. To get to the point, I believe the recommendations are wrong. Cummings Lane has a 25 mile per hour speed limit. DKS wrote that while the average speed is 24 miles per hour, the 85th percentile is 30. The traffic engineering industry standard used in setting speed limits is usually the 85th percentile speed. While the posted speed on Cummings is 25, the 85th percentile percent of drivers feel safe to drive at 5 miles over the speed limit. Thus, the city has designed Cummings Lane for higher speeds. The speeds observed are a result of design failure and must be addressed by a design modification. We should be designing our streets so that 85 to 90% of our drivers are going the speed limit. DKS quotes the Federal Highway Administration and the Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue when they wrote, "The speed humps are generally not appropriate for a street that is designed as a primary emergency vehicle route." And DKS does not recommend speed humps to be installed on Cummings Lane. This will assure emergency response times are not impacted to the adjacent neighborhoods. While the lack of traffic calming will also assure that the neighbors will continue to be impacted by speeding. I'm surprised this report did not include any real-world examples of traffic calming, and I'm also surprised they didn't include any alternatives. For example, speed cushions are speed humps that include gaps that allow larger vehicles to pass without slowing down, and they are typically used on key emergency response routes. Tests conducted in the UK found that the emergency fire equipment could go past speed cushions 10 to 20 miles an hour faster than standard humps, and that cushion width and spacing lower typical driver speeds. The City of Austin reported negligible delay to fire equipment as compared to typical speed humps. Another option could be the use of offset speed tables, which have shown a similar limited loss of speed by emergency vehicles. The local fire department is an important stakeholder in the development of traffic calming plans. But they're not the only one, nor the most common users of any particular street. So their input must be taken as part of the overall decision, not the end of the discussion. I would also note that this council has decided against the input of emergency services before during the decision to add a fuel station to the Safeway parking lot, which the fire department voiced their disapproval. And that was in a location with far greater repercussions. Frankly, I don't know what you paid for this report, but I would ask for my money back. The report is long on data tables and charts, but short on solutions and sheds no light on what the neighbors live with. I've been called a radical by some because of my efforts to make Kaiser a safer community for all, not to mention making Kaiser a more financially productive and appealing community. But to paraphrase Barry Goldwater, to be a radical for the safety of all Kaiserites, regardless of age or ability, is no vice. And to care primarily about how easily cars can speed through town is no virtue. Finally, and this is for the DKS staff especially, I want to quote Chuck Marone, the founder of Strong Towns. With regards to the traffic engineering profession, Chuck said, "The engineer first assumes that all traffic must travel at speed. Given that speed, all roads and streets are designed to handle a projected volume." And once those parameters are set, only then does an engineer look at mitigating for safety. And that is why I have little respect for the traffic engineering field. People say, we want safer streets. And they hear, we want wider, faster streets with minimal impedance to the flow of cars. Thus, for example, we have what I call an abomination, Lock Haven Road between 14th Street and the I-5 interchange. Traffic engineers write up a report based on standards from out-of-context guides presented to governing bodies who accept it as Talmudic knowledge, and we end up with unlivable places. I ask that you reject the recommendations of this report and install traffic calming devices with the utmost haste here and throughout the city. Thank you.
Thank you. There is a phrase that you used near the end of your testimony that I'm very uncomfortable with, and I want to say for the record that references to the Talmud is needs to be done with respect to the Jewish community, and I would refrain from using that, their teachings as a metaphor. So I would just caution along those lines because we deeply respect our Jewish neighbors and our Jewish community members.
As do I.
So thank you. With that, comments, questions on to Mr. de Blasi? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Also on the same topic, Carolyn Holman.
Carolyn Holman, West Kaiser resident. I live on Sunset. I have been coming to the Traffic Safety Bikeways Pedestrian Committee meetings with Rob Witters. We're representing West Kaiser Neighborhood Association because we knew that traffic studies were being done. We learned that from Mr. Lawyer. And we were trying to track the progress. And we went to several meetings this summer, and no reports were forthcoming. And I realized it was summer, and the engineer was on vacation, and the traffic cop was on vacation from time to time. But anyway, we didn't learn anything until suddenly we see the issue has now come to council. Apparently, from the staff, it certainly didn't come from the Traffic Safety Bikeways Committee. So I do have process questions when we try to cooperate and we try to go through the motions and follow the process that's laid out, and then this happens and we're sort of blindsided. And I also would like to know how much the study costs, the consultant, because I know that cost is always a primary issue. We've been told several times these sort of things cannot be done because speed bumps, or whatever you want to call them, are too expensive. So I would like to know how much that costs. And, we want to cooperate and we want to follow the process, but then when the process disappears, we do have questions. And on a lighter note, I would like to invite people to West Kaiser Neighborhood's first meeting of the fall, which happens this Thursday here at the Civic Center at 7 p.m. And our guest speaker is BJ Toy, who will be talking about the library vote. And we're looking forward to the council's park tour next Monday, which starts at Palmacia. And I understand the park's looking very good. And part of that is because 4 members of West Kaiser Neighborhood Association Board worked quite a long time at the park to clean things up. We worked another time, Rhonda, Carol Phipps, and I, to spread some of the bark chips that were piled there. I know Gary Blake's been out there. And I think Rhonda spent the entire weekend over there getting extra sticks and things picked up. So in addition to park staff, I think it's looking pretty nice, and people are actually using it, which is a great thing. And we're really glad that it got included in the Parks Master Plan. So we thank you for that.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to address the first question that you asked regarding the process. The Traffic Safety Biped Committee made a recommendation to council, and then council directed staff to proceed with these projects. So that's why I didn't go back to Traffic Safety Biped, because at that point they'd already made the recommendation and it was already in motion. So that's why it went from there to the council. We sent it to staff, and the staff has responded with the report that was before us tonight. So that is the process. Question. It doesn't go back to traffic safety for their additional review. They've already sent that to us and to the staff.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah.
You had another question.
Cost.
Cost. Can we get that to, is this for the cost for the study or the cost for the traffic table?
Consultant.
For the consultant. So that would be,
I don't have that information available at this time. I can get that for you and report it back.
all right, thank you very much. So that will be reported. All right, any other questions from council? All right, thank you very much. Okay, next up is Catherine Stone to talk about school board recall. And I will remind everyone that, we do have, we'll make comments about issues and so forth, and we can definitely hear what you have to say. But we want to make sure that everybody remembers that what we're talking about is, because there are people who think that the city council has any sort of influence over the school district. And so just to clarify for people who are watching, the school district is a separate governmental body separate and apart from the city of Kaiser. So,
Thank you,
Thank you.
Madam Mayor and City Council. This will be brief. I just want to let people know that members, I don't know why this is happening to all
yeah,
of us.
hang on. I want you to press pause for just a sec. I'm sorry. We're going to see what we can do about this.
Thank you, Tracy.
It is being
Got it short. Thank you. Well, we'll use it. I just want to let people know that members of our Salem Kaiser community are having a petition drive recalling 3 members of the Salem Kaiser School Board. You can go to our website at skeducationfirst.com to read the entire synopsis of reasons for each school board member being recalled. We have petitions here tonight for anyone who would like to sign them. I also would like to encourage people to attend the school board meetings, which occur on the second Tuesday of every month at 6 o'clock. So everyone can be informed about what is going on and understand what we're looking at. So thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Paula Giles from Kaiser Community Library.
You should be getting a flyer. I hope you have it.
I believe we are getting the flyer right now.
Aha. Good. This is our annual report. Oh, I'm Paula from Kaiser Community Library. And I'm here tonight just to present to you, if I can find this chair, our annual report. It's our second one. We're proud of it. I would like to point out to you that in the corner, we have our new logo, which is a circle of people reading books. And of course, as we all know, reading is an introduction to knowledge, understanding, world information, and it never ends, just like that circle doesn't. So you'll be seeing it in other things that we've had and we'll present. This is just an opportunity to share with you some of the things that we're doing and working on in the library currently. I hope you notice on the picture the children with their library cards. I have a story. You know I always do. We had a young lady who got her library card, and she's about 12. So she came up to me and she showed me, she was putting it in her wallet, and she says, "Look at my card, I have my card," all excited. And then as she's turning around, she asked me, she says, "Does this mean I'm grown up? I'm the same as Mom now. I have a card in my wallet." I had to be very, very careful and suggest that she talk to Mom about that. But it kind of shows you the importance that the children see in that card. It's really important to them. It gives them that idea of ownership and understanding that the library is important to them. Although the logo shows books, we know that libraries consist of a lot more than books. You see a picture there of some children working on computers. Now, those are special computers designed for young children, allowing them to work on literacy concepts, to work on growth and language, to work on all kinds of ideas for the little kiddos. We also have free access to computers to anybody in our community, and they're well used. People use them for job information, and a lot of things happened around COVID when things started to open up. We were getting all kinds of questions. When the elections began, as they already have, people come in, and this is a way for them to access information. Children come in, do their homework because they may not have a computer available to them at home. That's a real significant issue. I think you've probably seen some of the advertisements on TV that, yes, we do a lot of things now, and it's updated, and it's wonderful, but some children still do not have access to personal computers. And although we have some in our schools, those are really, really popular and hard to get to. So having that access, even for the older children, they can use those free computers as well. The little kids have their special computers. The older kids can use the other computers. We do monitor those, by the way. So there are limits as to what they can access and get into. We have some of our homeless folks. This is their only way to communicate with family, keep updated on what's happening in their world. So there's a lot of things that are happening. We're also very proud of our new software, which allows people to do a lot of things. They can now reserve material that they have in the library. They can look at a catalog and see what we actually have. Although we're fairly small, we still have a lot of offerings. So people can look them up, they can call us, they can reserve them. We put them aside, they can come in at their leisure and get whatever they were asking for. So there's a lot of new things happening. One of the things on the back side, if you'll look, we do have a picture of some of the work that was done during our COVID shutdown, where we did remodel some things. And you might recognize the person who was one of the first to use our drop box for books. She kind of stuck in there for that picture. But it's really proven very popular. It gives everybody an opportunity to bring those things back and drop them off. We also get donations there. So it's just a multifaceted kind of thing. Other than that, there's some other information on there, the things that people can do. But we're hoping that this just kind of gives you an idea of where we are. And I have to put in my plug. The book sale is coming up the first weekend in October. We see some of you there, and we hope that you'll consider coming. Lots of people do, and that's considered, I think it's more community than it is anything else. People just come in, and I have to mention some of our older folks. They come in and they just visit and talk. That's what they need to do. And if that's what we're there for, that's wonderful too. I always exceed my time, it's darn it. Anyway, does anyone have any questions or comments or anything?
Well, first of all, thank you. I always love your stories. It just tells us the human side and the importance that the library has for so many people in our community, and why this strong effort by so many community members to not only establish the library, but to go for the ballot measure that is before us in November. So thank you for that.
Thank you for that plug too.
And then the library sale is first weekend in November, so if people have books to donate, they can drop them into the slot. But if they have larger amounts, they should probably bring them inside.
Yes, they can. They can call the library, they can leave a message on the phone if we're not there, or can call when we're open, and just let us know. If you have a large amount of books, we do have people that can help them bring those books down if they need to. We do have a few folks that bring large amounts. It's difficult to do, I know, for some folks to carry heavy books. So we will make someone available if they let us know they're coming. Yes, we love to get those books. That's a lot of how we refurbish and get new things in our library, because we are small and our budget's very tiny, but we do try to get new things in as often as we can.
And if anybody hasn't been in the library since the remodel, wow, it is fabulous.
Yes, we're very proud of it. A lot of volunteer hours, a lot of hard work. The Heritage Foundation has been very grateful to us, very gracious to us as well, letting us do a lot of things and updating. And we know that it's still a small library, but we do have a lot of things available for our local people in community. And I also mentioned that we do have some folks that are coming and getting tutoring now that school started. So we're already getting calls about, can we do that? And yes, we can.
That is fabulous.
Okay.
Any questions for Paula about our fabulous Kaiser Community Library?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we'll make sure we keep sharing the word about the upcoming book sale.
Thank you.
All right. That is everybody I have signed up for public testimony this evening. I would like to acknowledge for the record 2 written pieces of public comment. One from Jimmy Jones, the Community Action Executive Director in Salem. And this is they are seeking additional government-appointed representatives to join the board of directors. I did put an email out to the council, and 2 councilors are interested. So we will have a conversation, and we will come back and make that appointment at the next council meeting. The other is from Jane Herb, a resident of Kaiser, and the topic was, please stop adding fluoride to our water. So I want to acknowledge that letter. All right. That concludes then our public testimony for this evening. We are going to public hearings. We have 4 of them, so we will get them underway. And item 7A is the regulation of fireworks ordinance. Public hearing is now open, and I will turn it over to our city manager. Where does this go to?
This one, Madam Mayor, this one's going to go to the city attorney.
All right, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Adam, Madam Mayor, and council. You may remember a recent work session the council had on this issue, and after discussion, the council directed us to come back with a draft ordinance addressing 2 and possibly 3 items, and we set that for public hearing tonight. The first one is having to do with illegal fireworks and making it a municipal offense to have those at any time. Currently, we have no municipal offense for that, and consequently, as we discussed at the work session, prosecution of those are difficult, they're a full crime. This would be a tool in which we could cite offenders into municipal court. The second one has to do with more fire danger issues, and that is there is such a thing, and by the way, the large portion of this is in Kaiser format, but is based primarily on Tigard's ordinance. And the second one, it has what National Weather Service calls a red flag warning with regard to weather conditions and other conditions that make it dangerous to have fireworks of any kind, and would automatically make illegal the use of any fireworks during a red flag warning. The third one was a discussion right at the end of the work session in which the council had started to discuss the possibility of some types of date and or time limits for legal fireworks. There wasn't really a consensus, as I recall, on that, so I left that section blank for you folks to kind of kick around tonight to see if there's something you want to do on that score. As I said, the ordinance is pretty much self-explanatory. In addition to the direct violation of someone using, selling, exploding illegal fireworks, there is an additional violation for anyone who would allow it. So if it was allowed on your property and you were present at the time, there's a rebuttable presumption that you allowed that. So we could look at the property owner as allowing that. That I will warn council that may be difficult in a typical situation where the use of the fireworks is typically in the street itself, not on the property. So that's a little dicier in terms of enforcement, but it does give us an extra tool in that regard. And so with that, I'll turn it back to council and see if there's any questions.
All right, any questions to start off with? And then we can work through the questions that Mr. Johnson raised for us to discuss, and then we'll hear from the members of the public. Okay, so you wanted us to comment on 3 things, if I heard you correctly. So the first one was, just go back down the list again.
The first one is the use and possession of exploding illegal fireworks at any time. It's the main gist, I think, of
Right.
your points. And I'll take this opportunity, I think the council understands this, but for the audience's sake, the issue with illegal fireworks are, frankly, not only are they more dangerous, but they're also louder. And depending on where you lived in Keizer the last 2 or 3 years, it was pretty bad. Some areas I heard were slightly better this year, but most of the complaints we had were worse than last year for the 2022. So the issue is illegal fireworks are not only more dangerous, but they're also louder. And so this would, similar to what Tigard and also Lake Oswego do, is make that a municipal offense that could be cited in municipal court. So that's the first issue.
Okay. Were there any questions on that issue about just if it's illegal, it's illegal, and that's that, and we'll put that into our municipal court, which makes it easier for us to take action? I'm not hearing anything from council that says we've got a problem with that.
The second
Number
one
2.
had to do with the weather issues with regard to red flag warnings. That's the way that Tigard addressed it. I think that's wise. That's a common, I didn't realize it at the work session, but I found out later that's a common thing, the red flag warning. And it kind of takes the politics out of it, if you can see that, rather than, is fire conditions bad enough or not bad enough, et cetera. There could be some downside to that. I don't know how often, I didn't research how often that happens and whether or not that would be too frequent, but that's the way Tigard handles it.
So I have one question, then I'll open up to the rest of the council. That would be by the National Weather Service, but if we recognize that we have conditions in Kaiser specifically, still our Public Works Director can prohibit fires in our parks and so forth, what, is that based on different parameters? Or is it based on red flag?
Well, my guess, and I haven't discussed it with Mr. Lawyer, but my guess is if we had a situation that was deemed dangerous by either Public Works or the local fire district, but did not, for whatever reason, rise to the level of red flag warning, they would take that into account and perhaps make that decision to have, no flames at all. As you know, they're fairly limited now, anyway. That would not, though, take care of a situation if you felt outside the parks. That's located, strictly the parks.
So you already have that authority to do so anyway, Mr. Lawyer?
In the parks, that's correct.
Just in the parks. So
Just in parks.
if we added that in here, we don't really have the authority to do so, or do we?
Oh, no, you certainly can, but it would cover the entire city, including the parks. And it would be automatic, again, if you adopt the ordinance as is. If a red flag warning came in, then we would send notices out and say, no fireworks, it's in this area, so.
I was going the other way around.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If Mr. Lawyer issued a no fireworks because of the dry conditions in the parks, which would probably also impact the rest of the city, because I can't imagine the parks being drier than the rest of the city since we water them, therefore equally as unsafe. Could we put that in, that designation would also then apply to the rest of the city?
Yes, I can look at how that would work.
Okay. Councilor Herrera? No.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As far as the parks go, in my neighborhood, I think the majority of it is out in the streets. So I don't know how we're gonna, and I've been doing research on some of this stuff, but as far as you mentioned something that was interesting to me, to get a little off here, but the fireworks are way louder than they were a few years ago. And somebody asked me, a young person that I mentored, said, why do the dogs, what happens is it triggers their fight or flight instinct and they're really loud now. And I know from experience with my dogs that, there's like animals that abandon their young and leave them to predators. There's actually birds that fly into buildings. It affects a lot of, not only the PTSD and those folks, but so as far as the regulations in the street and in their own yards, what do we do there?
Well, the police can still cite for the use of fireworks in the street. The part that wouldn't work is, or might be a little dicey, is if it's literally in the street, then it wouldn't be on the property. So the property owner, but the violator could still be cited, if you see what I'm getting at. So we have an instance where the fireworks are set off in the street and they're illegal fireworks. The police can, if they have evidence, cite the person who's exploding those fireworks in the street. They would not be able to likely cite the property owner of, let's say, the house next door, presuming that those people came from that house. It could have been the other house, right? It could have been 2 houses down. So the flip side of it is if somebody has it in their driveway, then they're on their property, then both the actual violator, the person exploding the fireworks, illegal fireworks, as well as the property owner could be cited.
And one more thing, if I may, Madam Mayor.
Follow up?
I keep thinking about the education aspect of this because, we have a video, we have a website, we can do a video informing folks on, educating them. Because a lot of folks actually don't know what I just mentioned about the animals.
Right.
And if they do, they'd probably say, wow, think a little bit different. I know there's some folks that won't care, but I think that if we be proactive as far as education and putting some kind of video out there that folks can say, hey, you know what, we're gonna be taking it now, or something in regards to what we come up with.
And if I may, Madam Mayor, thank you, Councilor Herrera, for bringing that up. I forgot to mention it in the staff report. That was discussed at length at the council. I think it's an excellent idea. Perhaps even flyers at the fireworks sales, et cetera. I think that was brought up. And one of the other things you mentioned, and I think everyone knows this, it kind of goes without saying, a lot of times, not everybody, unfortunately, but when you give people the reason why you're doing something, it really helps. And so that's what you just mentioned right now, Councilor Herrera. I think that's a great idea.
Absolutely. Anything else on this one, on the weather-related, the dry conditions? To see if there is something that we can do that is not just restricted to the National Weather Service issuing a red flag warning if we determine there are local conditions that would warrant something locally or in this part of the valley. Councilor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So it seems that, by nature, this is a very difficult issue in order to find people to cite them and all of that. And so it seems to me that we need to keep this as, this is a beginning, this is a tool, but to try and solve all of the potential problems with this could lead us to not doing anything, I guess. So I would just say that this is a great place to start and that we can tweak it as we go and we not try and solve everything right away. If there's something that we can do to mitigate those obvious concerns, then we should do it. But it just seems that this is a start. This is more than we have now, and we can tweak it as we go.
See if there's a need?
Yeah.
Okay. I think there's some strong logic there. Anything else on this number 2 before we head to the third issue? Okay, the third one then had to do with the time, manner, and place, specifically time restrictions. And at the work session, we did talk about New Year's Eve. We know that at midnight, that's when everything goes off because that's New Year's Eve. So when we've talked about, well, everything has to stop by 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, well, that doesn't make sense on that particular holiday. And we can, it was discussed in here, and can't find the section. I think I went too far. Talking about the New Year's and 4th of July being the two that may have different times. But for everything else, we had talked about different time frames where even legal stuff or for either time periods during which they're sold or just time of day. And we didn't really get clear on that. So let's break that into two things. One is time of day. During the time periods where the fireworks are being sold and the fireworks stands are open, do we want everything to stop, except for those 2 holidays, by a certain time of night? Comments? I'm opening this up to the floor. I mean, around my house, night stops at midnight. That's what I'm calling the cops. Chief. And I've done it. And I get response. It's fabulous. It gets really quiet about 5 minutes later. But not everybody wants that going off, even the legal ones, the firecrackers and stuff. It sends my dog into orbit. And then I'm not sleeping, and that's not good for anybody. Thoughts about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, midnight? Don't care. Throwing it out there.
Well,
Councilor Reed?
I feel like I should weigh in.
I'm asking.
So here again, it's just a matter of if we get too prescriptive, then it becomes perhaps a little bit counterproductive. However, and this I got to say too, because it's not that bad in my neighborhood. So I think that in the neighborhoods that are worse, this would be having people weigh in on. I would think that 10 o'clock. Well, I don't know. If we were going to do a time, I would say maybe either make it, we could go 10 o'clock weekdays and 11 o'clock on weekends. But there again, that's an awful lot of nitpicking. And so, I don't know. I guess, again, I'm just going to, I think we should just keep it as simple as possible. But again, that's from my perspective of not having a huge problem in my neighborhood.
So what if we made it the same as, don't we have a noise ordinance, and it's at 9 o'clock that we want people to have their, unless they have a permit for a concert or something that goes past 9 o'clock, that's when things are supposed to not be projected throughout the neighborhood. Wouldn't that be logical to have this at that same time?
Except for
the two.
The 2 holidays, right?
Except for those 2 holidays.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Right, but match it up to the noise ordinance time period. Councilor Kohler?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to have Chief weigh in a little bit on this. is enforcement, does it make any difference whether we put a time on this, or how do you feel about that part?
I think the noise ordinance lists the nighttime hours starting at 10.
Oh, is it 10?
Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's 10. 10 to 7, right?
Oh, it is 10?
10 to
Okay.
7.
All right, 10 to 7.
Actually, if fireworks were part of the noise ordinance, it'd make life a whole lot easier. So with regard to noise caused by legal fireworks, if it's part of the fireworks noise ordinance, it makes life a lot easier on us.
All right.
Yep.
Chief?
I have a question. Maybe I'm out of order here, but because we'd be the ones in part responsible for this, I don't want to fail to mention it now to find out that the horse has already left the barn. In B2, it says the ordinance prohibits the sale, possession, use, or exploding of all fireworks, legal or illegal, at any time that there's a red flag warning. I mean, we cops don't care if they're selling or possessing these. It's the use of them. I'm not sure how would we go shut down the fireworks stands during a red flag warning? I'm thinking maybe this needs to be adjusted.
So, Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I considered this, and I should have talked to Chief Teague before that. This is from, and again, this is a working draft. We're not going to adopt anything for final action tonight. This is how Tiger does it, and I think it's kind of based on the state statute. Whether or not we would actually want to do it that way is kind of up to council. To me, if you have a red flag warning, I wouldn't want to see them being sold, frankly, at the time the red flagging warning is, but we do have a practical difficulty there. I mean, we typically don't go cite business people, but I mean, that's how Tiger does it. By the way, I talked to the Tiger city attorney in an almost disappointed tone. She was disappointed they didn't have any cites for 4th of July, which surprised me, a city that size, and that surprised her too, but for whatever reason, they didn't have any citations, so we don't have any real world experience, at least in that city.
Thank you, Chief, for bringing our attention to this. It's Section 3, Item A. I think the issue that we're trying to deal with is the explode part. Whether or not they have them for a party next week, I don't frankly care, just as long as they don't blow it up during a red flag or after 10 o'clock, and that is legal. That's what do you all think? I'm going to go to Councilor Duran, then Councilor Kohler.
I would say let them sell them, but maybe work up some kind of a system where they can warn, saying this is a red flag day at the stands.
Well, and some of our stores sell them outside the usual time periods. I mean, like Bi-Mart will have them, or some. I don't know what the regulations are for having them in the store, but I don't think we're going to send cops into our local stores. Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You're really talking about, aren't we really talking about illegal fireworks? I mean, isn't that where this all started?
Not entirely, actually, because there are people who, with the legal ones, they just go all hours of the night, and they are disturbing the neighborhood, which is why we're talking about time, manner, and place. The illegal is illegal all the time, but the use of legal ones can also be very disturbing. And having them go off, 11 o'clock, 1 in the morning, can be very disturbing to the neighborhood, which is part of the basis of the conversation, why we're having on the discussion on, Section 4 here. Mr. Johnson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilor Kohler is correct. It is in both, actually. The sale, and I'm reading from the actual draft ordinance, prohibited from selling, keeping, or offering for sale, exposing for sale, possessing, using, exploding, or having exploded any fireworks that aren't allowed as legal fireworks, basically. And it says the same thing for the red flag warning. My suggestion, and I'll talk to Chief Teague further about this, is I really think that you'd want to keep that for the illegal ones.
Yeah.
Somebody should be cited if they're selling illegal fireworks. But for the red flag one, that's going to be an off and on kind of thing. And I think what Councilor Kohler was kind of getting at is you're going to have a fireworks tent, they're going to be selling it, but for them to say not this day but that day would be kind of difficult. And so then maybe the education piece, this is a red flag day, but not preventing the sale of that might be a good move.
Councilor Kohler, follow up?
It would be helpful to know how many red flag days we really have.
I can check on that.
Yeah. And we often see these later in the summer, as we all know. Council President Smith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The sale of fireworks in the state of Oregon are actually regulated by the state of Oregon. So even the legal ones can only be sold during certain timeframes per year in the year. It looks like those dates are June 23rd to July 6th of every year. So the state law already has that in place. And the only other thing I'd say is that generally, if we have a red flag warning, businesses as a whole would like to support not having fireworks out there, and they'd like to keep communities safe. So I think that sometimes it's giving that vendor or that business a tool as well to fall back on, to say, I'm sorry, currently the city of Kaiser is not going to allow for this ball. They can blame us, that's fine. Blame the government, but it takes some pressure off of the actual merchant. So just a thought.
So for the time, manner, and place, just never ever on the illegal, but for the legal fireworks, marrying that up with the noise ordinance hours, and then taking another look at 3A to make sure that that makes sense. I'm not sure we're entirely there yet on the red flag warning times. Clearly, we don't want things being blown off, even the legal ones during red flag warning. But on the offer for sale and so forth, I'm not really comfortable with that. So we'll see about striking that. Anybody object to that? Okay. So those are the three areas that we were asked to do some work on, kind of following up on our work session. What I'd like to do is open it up now to folks. I don't have anybody signed up to testify in this public hearing, which has also been a little bit of a work in progress, but I would invite anybody who would like to address the council on this issue to raise a hand or come on down. And I did at the beginning. Yep. Okay, nobody's rushing up going, I've got a lot to say. So let's finish up with comments from council. Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's after the work session and after this showed up on the agenda, there were a number of people that contacted me and they weren't really sure why we were doing all this. I explained part of it, but I think education is a big part of what we're trying to do here, and to really understand that we are not trying to get people not to celebrate independence or New Year's or anything else, but we're trying to be good neighbors and make it better for everybody. That's my comment.
All right, thank you. Councilor Herrera?
I agree with Councilor Kohler, and like I said, the education component is very important. But like I said, and I'm going to repeat this because the firecrackers today, and if you're lucky, if you're not in the neighborhood, Councilor Starr would know what I'm talking about in our neighborhood. It just goes on. And I think that, like I said, the fireworks they're not your daddy's fireworks from the old days. These are incredible. It sounds like right in your backyard, Mm-hmm. And I think we're in the right step. You might have a point there as far as, not doing everything at once, but something's got to come up, and hopefully we'll come up with a solution here. But like I said, the main thing is the educational component and letting folks know that, because if they don't have a dog, their neighbor does or something like that, or they have veterans and that whatnot. So explaining the situation would make sense to a lot of folks. Thank you.
Agreed. And that's what we do with many of the things that we do is education first, and then we have the tools in our back pocket for, okay, you can't be taught, we'll use another tool. All right. Yes. Yes, I was inviting people to come up. Yes. If you just say your name again for the record. Okay. Sorry. Oh, hang on. We unplugged it because of the noise. Just come on up to this one. Again, that thing is being irritating tonight.
Raise your hand.
Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify, are you voting on stopping fireworks of any kind after 10 o'clock at night because of noise ordinance? Is that
Correct.
what's happening?
Except for the 2 holidays.
Oh, except for the two
Except for the 4th of July and New Year's, because we know that that part of the holiday does go a little later.
Well, true, and sometimes in the summer, it doesn't even get dark until 9 o'clock.
Exactly.
After. All
Yes.
right, thank you, that's all I wanted to know.
All right, thank you.
I have to report back, so.
Okay. And also, this does not include the ones for which permits have been issued. Those are separate determinations, but that's an event. It has been applied for, and that permit has been issued to do a fireworks display such as at Volcano Stadium. So that is separate, and those are professionally run. Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We did talk about other holidays that ethnic groups might have, or some other times that somebody might want to explode those, but did we ever come up with anything?
For after 10, way late at night, no. There are other holidays and celebrations that people do where there's legal fireworks that are part of that. But we didn't get any requests for anybody to be able to do the late night fireworks as part of that. But that's a good question to keep in mind, and I hope that if we do find out that we need to make some tweaks, as Councilor Reed pointed out, that we can do that going forward. It's going to be an ordinance, but it is amendable. Okay, Mr. Johnson, so I'm about to go ahead and close the public hearing. Anything else? Public hearing is now closed. So do we need a motion to direct staff on these items, or are we good to go? What do you need?
I think a motion would be appropriate.
Okay. Council President Smith, are you ready to go on that?
Yep. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the council direct the city attorney to prepare the fireworks ordinance for council adoption as discussed.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the Kaiser City Council direct the city attorney to prepare an ordinance. Oh, I've lost my place here. There we go. For adoption as discussed. Good, we didn't have to go back through all those pieces. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed signify by saying no. Motion passes unanimously. Let's go on to item 7B, resolution exemption of brand name specifications, purchase of goods from competitive bidding and purchasing Tricaster brand name equipment for production studio. Public hearing is now open. This goes to Mr. Wood.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Council. Tonight, I'd like to bring before you that the city would like to upgrade the K23 production studio equipment by replacing the existing Tricaster with a brand new one. The new Tricaster will enhance the city's ability to record, switch, edit, route, and stream public, education, and government content. This is going to be a significant upgrade. The primary reason that we're doing a brand-specific exemption is we'd like to make sure that the new Tricaster works with all of our existing equipment. We would rather make a small but large investment now rather than a large investment to replace everything. Also, the existing Tricaster has been with us for a few years. While it's still under warranty, it is starting to get towards the end of its useful life. So we'd like to plan ahead and be ahead of the curve in replacing that. With that, if there's any additional questions.
Are microphones included in that purchase?
I don't know, but they need to be. I was just telling the city manager that we actually replaced most of the microphones 2 or 3 years ago, I think right at the beginning of the pandemic. So I'm not sure who's been playing with them, but I'm getting frustrated.
You and all the rest of us. So yes, if we can, under a separate conversation, see about getting rid of the but that is not the topic of this particular public hearing, so we will stay on topic. Were there any questions of City Council or for this public hearing? All right. Was there anyone from the public who would like to address the City Council on this issue? I have no one signed up. Going once, going twice. Okay. Anything further before we close public hearing? Public hearing is now closed. Council President Smith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the Kaiser City Council adopt Resolution R 2022, exemption of the brand name specifications, purchase of goods from competitive bidding and purchasing Tricaster brand name equipment for production studio.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Kaiser City Council adopt Resolution R 2022, exemption of the brand name specifications, purchase of goods from competitive bidding and purchasing Tricaster brand name equipment for production studio. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Motion passes unanimously. Item 7C is a resolution exemption of consulting services agreement for strategic planning services from competitive bidding and awarding agreement to SSW Consulting LLC. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. Try to speak loud so I don't have to move my mic.
Well, the problem is it goes to television.
Yeah, it's my mic's on. Just
Okay, we have to switch her up.
I'm the culprit.
Okay. So we've been operating off long-term, short-term plans and council work goals for the last couple of years, and would like to bring in a strategic planning consultant to facilitate the council working through a 3 to 5 year strategic plan. It's somebody actually said it best in the Community Diversity Engagement Committee last week. It is very hard to facilitate from the dais while you're up there. So I've worked tangentially with this consultant before, and many of my colleagues have worked with SSW Consulting's Sarah Singer-Wilson, and would like to proceed with acquiring her services, which would include not only working with the city council, but doing some public outreach and work with staff also. And to do that, we need to exempt our own public procurement, or our own procurement laws for consulting services. The cost for the services are just under $40,000, and that would include all the engagement with the public, with staff, and with the city council, and then follow through on proposing documents, producing deliverables.
And new microphones. All right.
I'll stop
So
there.
I've got a question, and I'll go to Councilor Herrera. One thing I would like to see is the resume or a CV for this consultant, and that wasn't in the packet, and it didn't occur to me to ask for it before this meeting, and I apologize for that. So I don't have a lot of information on the background of this particular consultant.
Yes, I'm sorry that that wasn't in there. I'll share that with the council.
Okay, I'd appreciate that. Councilor Herrera and then Councilor Reed.
Yeah, and you might have said this, but how long does that process take? The engagement, the meeting, the whatever?
We're looking probably at a 3 to 5 month window. Our goal is to get a plan adopted before we get too deep into the budget, so that the strategic plan becomes a guiding document for the staff to prepare the council's budget. So our goal would be to have it wrapped up before we get into the 2023-24 fiscal plan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I guess I would just like to get a little bit clearer picture of how this would change how we do business. As it is right now, every year we with the Long Range Planning Committee, we look at our long range and short range goals, figure out ones which are still relevant, and now we've added the work plan, the council work plan to the long and short term goals. And as it is right now, it's a fairly flexible system. It's not liking anybody tonight.
I think it's just in a really foul mood.
Yeah, okay. But anyway, as we have it now, it's a fairly flexible system that we can kind of look at, and yes, the long and short-term goals can still help prioritize. I can see the flip side of a strategic plan being a lot more strategic about that, but when we get strategic about that, do we lose some of that flexibility? And so I just would like to get a clearer picture of how this would improve how we do business.
Thanks, that's a great question. Having the strategic plan being 5-year, I think it adds a lot, we can get a lot more specificity in that 5-year span. But the intent is to revisit it every year also and reaffirm the plan and then create the work plan for that year. So although you would have 5 years, there would be a lot of goals among that 5 years, and you'd be reordering what we were going to accomplish that year. So as part of the budget process, you would come before you in a strategic meeting after the long-range planning is done financially to look at revenues, expenditures, budget drivers. Then you have a session dedicated to just the strategic plan, where we show you progress that we've made on goals and outcomes that we're looking at, and then reaffirm or give you a chance to reorder or prioritize some of those things in there. And then we take that guidance going into the budget with a financial target, knowing our limits and bounds, and then a strategic target to come together with a document that makes progress towards your goals.
So may I just
follow up?
So so what I'm hearing is that it's primarily the specificity that helps us be able to track the steps in accomplishing our goals more clearly. Because again, looking at our short and long-term goals, we have maybe a bullet or two or four under our goals, but in terms of the specificity, that's what the strategic plan would have to offer, and that would help us be able to see more clearly the progress we're making in our goals. Is that correct?
Right. I anticipate that it would add a lot more detail about it and extend the vision down the road about it. But if you look at the boards now, with the short-term and long-term goals, you see items that are checkoffs. When you're looking at strategic planning outcomes, we probably want to consider not things that we did or checked off, but things that we do make a difference in the outcome. And the outcomes being, are people happier, are people are more content, or they feel safer? Those are outcomes rather than outputs. And I think largely what's on our short-term and long-term goals right now are outputs, hoping for a correlation between outcomes.
Okay, so perhaps formulating the why a little bit more clearly as to why these goals are here and what we hope to accomplish by accomplishing them.
Yeah, that's well said.
Okay. Thank you.
So in our council rules and procedures, we adopt the council goals at the beginning of each biennium. And we'll be going through that process again starting January, and I think it has to be done by, is it March or April? April. So would this be done in time to help inform the biennial goal setting, which is what I would anticipate separate from the strategic plan? The strategic plan would be a tool to inform the short and long-term goals.
That would be perfect, I believe. If your goal setting is in April, then that would be a great timing. Hopefully, as you said, this would inform that.
Well, it has to be done by April. We usually get started in January or February, and then we also have in March, the Long Range Planning Task Force, which is made up of all the Budget Committee members to talk about the financial end and where the impacts or the overlaps are in terms of funding allocation to achieve those goals.
Yeah,
Which
I
are
don't know
again
if we'll make it
outputs.
the first year, but certainly would be there each year.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to, real quick, okay, anybody, okay, Councilor Rivera.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Now, as far as this group that you're talking about, now, and this sounds crazy, but I mean, why did not this go out for competitive bid for, say, other, so in terms of cost and background, like?
Well, so this is, the state considers these professional services. It's our local procurement ordinances that requires bids on professional services. And, I mean, you wouldn't, I guess, to give you an example, we wouldn't take a bid on an attorney. You know, who would work for the lowest rate? So it's, talk about professional service. Lucianne said we might.
I bid on my attorney. No, I mean, so I understand what you're talking about, but I mean, isn't there a lot of consulting companies that do this?
It would not be fair to assume that every consultant is equal in terms of their in these professional skills.
Okay.
Like
that's why it would be important to look at everybody's resumes. But I'm just throwing it out there.
Well, and to that question about the procurement laws, I think under 50,000 is considered a quote unquote small procurement. Or was that? Yeah, I think it was 50. Under 150 is intermediate. Over 150, I think, goes to the larger procurements. At least that's what, in my world, working at the state. So I don't know how we have it structured here, Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, we have, and Adam was not aware of this until we chatted. We have, our local rules are more strict than the state's on this issue. And I don't remember the dollar amount, but it's over, we have a real low dollar amount for even personal services.
Oh, maybe that's another topic for conversation. Okay, but staying on topic, any other questions on the proposal here? Okay, then I'm going to open it up to members of the community. I don't have anybody signed up to testify to this issue, and I would invite anyone who is here who would like to comment on this issue to come on down. And we have not received any emails or other communications on this issue either. Okay? Anything else before I close the public hearing?
Just
Councilor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess I just wanted to point out too that, this has been budgeted for already in terms of the 300,000 towards strategic planning. So this is not just an extra 40,000 that we are digging out of our general fund. So this has already been budgeted for. It is a specific use under that guideline. So clarifying.
That is correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Council President Smith, did you have a comment? Yes.
First, or you want to tell us, say now?
No, it's under the public hearing, then I'll close the public hearing.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. I go back 4 years ago in our very first goal planning session, and you have made adjustments since then to this process. But I just remember being really excited and coming in and like, okay, here's what our goals are going to be. And it was like, okay, great. All right, staff, go do it. And it kind of felt like, hey, I'm going to lose 10 pounds. Can, the chief go run 10 miles for me? So I think we had some process issues on things. And that was one of the things where, when I brought that up to Mayor Clark, I'm like, I've never been in a goal planning session where you literally set your goal and tell somebody else to do it. So I think that I just pulled this lady's website up. This is strategic planning to unite your people towards a clear future, collaborative development of your strategic plan, your community vision, guidance to help you tap into your mission, vision, values, graphic facilitation to promote understanding, innovation, planning process that emphasizes diversity, equity, and inclusion, communication strategies to authentically engage your team, organization, community. And then it goes into facilitation as well. I love this kind of stuff. This is private world, we actually use this fairly often on things like that. I like to see it being brought into the government entities. I think it kind of helps to bridge some of the gaps of communication and processes and things by finding who's good at what, tapping into that and allowing people to have a voice. So we talk about the Community Diversity Engagement Committee, all of those things, all are part of a strategic plan for a community, to my understanding. So I actually really like that you're going out there and finding somebody who can help us do that. And it is good. I mean, you look at all the things we've accomplished, but sometimes they've been kind of jumpy. Like, we're over here, we're halfway here, we forgot about that. So I think that that actually will help kind of direct a little bit more of that at a professional level without just leaving it all on the department heads or the city staff. So thank you for doing the work.
Thank you. I would also point out that some of the other local governments, such as Chariots, is also going through a strategic planning process. And again, engaging with the community, kind of setting it out there more than the 2 to 3 years of, okay, this is what we need to get done to stay on track, but to set a vision for where we're going from there. And I think that that kind of strategic planning helps us as a body, but also staff to be able to take that longer look, because that way we'll invest more strategically and more effectively, I think, those tax dollars which have been entrusted to us. So this is why I also appreciate this being brought to us. Okay, if there's nothing else, I'm going to close the public hearing. And then we can deliberate. If you want to put a motion on the table?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the Kaiser City Council adopt Resolution R 2022 Exemption of Consulting Services Agreement for Strategic Planning Services from Competitive Bidding and Awarding Agreement to SSW Consulting, LLC.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Kaiser City Council adopt Resolution R 2022 Exemption of Consulting Services Agreement for Strategic Planning Services from Competitive Bidding and Awarding Agreement to SSW Consulting, LLC. Discussion. All right. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Motion passes unanimously. All right. Turning my page. Our fourth and final public hearing this evening is a resolution exemption of agreement for building high-performance organizations from competitive bidding and awarding agreement to Commonwealth Centers for High-Performance Organizations. Public hearing is now open. This goes to the city manager.
Yes, thank you again, Madam Mayor and Council. This is, I was fortunate enough that the council budgeted some money for leadership training in the ARPA funds. And it was a very generous budget, which is not needed. Originally, I had planned to have just one session of these, the Commonwealth Center for High Performance come and teach our department directors and other staff as much as we can. You can do about 36 per session. And then in consultation with the department directors, we thought, well, we're here with a rare opportunity with the enough funds to be able to run everybody through this in a very short order and really give kind of a jump start to the organization. The Commonwealth Center for High Performance Organizations is somebody I've worked with for the past 20 years. And it's a leadership philosophy which I've subscribed to and begun to teach here. These folks are much better at teaching it than I am. I can give a primer course in it and an overview and kind of run the pieces of it together. But to give the whole organization, all of our employees, a jumpstart in this, and to understand the entire picture of how an organization, the different pieces of an organization that's healthy, is really kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity to be able to do this. So the department directors, again, discussed this together and said, you know what, why don't we try to get everybody through this? This philosophy is really based on high employee engagement and making our employees part of the solution to making the organization run well, getting them to the table for ideas, and then all the systems and structures that make that happen. To do one session, their fee is just under $15,000. And again, that's 36 employees. And when you equate that down the per employee cost, it's a really a good price. If we were to send each employee there to get that training through the university that they use, it would run about $5,000 per employee. But for $15,000, we can train 36 employees in it. There's a little bit of money built into that for the travel, for the consultants come out here. It's a 3-day workshop, so there's 3 nights, 3 or 4 nights hotel stay and per diem and stuff like that. And then also some food and supplies for the workshop. And then we multiply that times 3. So very conservatively, I don't see us using anywhere over $75,000, but more than likely closer to $60,000 if we were to use this. And it would be a great kickstart to the organization and this line of thinking. This is an organization that trains thousands and thousands of local government employees, but they've not been limited to just local government employees. They have done work in the federal government, the military, federal law enforcement agencies, state governments, and also private sector work. So with that, requesting approval to be able to do the same thing that we just did, except this organization, because it is specifically their material that we use. They're the author and instructors of it.
All right, thank you very much. And yeah, thank you for including the description of their services and so forth. I was going to ask a question about lean. I had put in my notes early on because that was a process that Salem Hospital went through, and I see that that is one of several that this organization teaches. Lean, Six Sigma, theory of constraints, and so forth. There's others that many of us will recognize from processes we've been through with organizations with which we've been affiliated. Questions on the program or the procurement of this service? So I have nobody signed up for this public hearing. I would welcome anybody present who would like to ask questions or comment to do so at this time. I am seeing none. Anything further that we need before I close the public hearing? Public hearing is now closed. Council President Smith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the Kaiser City Council adopt Resolution R 2022, Exemption of Agreement for Building High-Performance Organizations from Competitive Bidding and Awarding Agreement to Commonwealth Centers for High-Performance Organizations.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Kaiser City Council adopt Resolution R 2022, Exemption of Agreement for Building High-Performance Organizations from Competitive Bidding and Awarding Agreement to Commonwealth Centers for High-Performance Organizations. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously. That concludes our public hearings for this evening, and we will now start under administrative action. Item 8A, the West Kaiser Neighborhood Association traffic calming requests. This goes to Mr. Lawyer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and City Council. As you heard testimony earlier tonight, the West Kaiser Neighborhood Association made a request for some traffic calming measures in their neighborhood. One of them being a speed table on Cummings Lane, and the other being converting the intersection of Shoreline and Dearborn from a two-way stop to an all-way stop. Staff conducted some volume and speed studies to get an idea. One of the things that was stated in the concerns was speeding and safety, obviously. After obtaining the data, the speed study, in my non-engineering professional opinion, did not support either one of those measures. So I elected to engage a traffic engineer to give me their input. Look at the intersection, look at the street. They did some additional counts on Dearborn and Shoreline that are included with the packet, and came back with the same basically recommendation that I had, is the data did not support either one of these measures. So from there, I felt it was important to bring it to council and let council discuss it and direct me accordingly on what you would like me to do, because the data does not support either one of the requests. The other thing that I thought about in listening to the testimony earlier tonight, first of all, I'd never heard of a speed cushion. I've done a little looking on Google and researching that. That's an interesting concept. could be done. But the bigger thing that crossed my mind is, where on Cummings? All I've heard is Cummings Lane. Where? Cummings Lane's a long street. Are we talking about one? Are we talking about more than one? So I need a little guidance from the neighborhood association, I guess, on location for that, should the council choose to go ahead with a speed table or a speed cushion on Cummings Lane. So from there, I'd be happy to answer any questions. The study says it all. I don't really have much more to add, and if you would like to know what the consultant cost, it was a not to exceed quote of $6,000. I have not seen the bill yet, so I don't know what the exact number is.
Okay, but that was the cap.
That was our cap.
Okay, so that gives us a good round number on that question. And some comments were made about the livability around there. I've lived in that neighborhood for over 30 years. And so that is my neighborhood that my kids have walked there. I have walked there with my dog and so forth, and my kids. So I've lived there a long time. All right, any questions on the data? And then we can talk about each of the proposals separately. Okay, let's look at proposal number 1, which is the adding the 2 stop signs on Shoreline at the intersection with Dearborn. So we need Counselor Starr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Lawyer, I understand that the data doesn't support adding the 2 stop signs, but what are the downsides? Other than potentially saving lives or...
The biggest downside is the impact to the neighbors that live on that corner that are gonna hear the cars start and stop routinely, repetitively, from here until eternity. That will be an impact. Other than that, I can't think of a negative impact other than that. Now, I don't know if those folks have been talked to. I haven't spoken to them, but they will be impacted by that. The volume of traffic on Dearborn is pretty minimal, especially on the west side of Shoreline. There's just not a lot of cars that come eastbound on Dearborn to Shoreline. The volume on Shoreline is considerably higher. You take all those cars, every one of them's gonna stop, every one of them's gonna start. So the neighbors will be impacted by that. That's probably the only negative I can come up with.
A follow-up on your question is how many crashes have occurred there in the last 5 years?
None that I'm aware of.
Thank you. So we need, and again, I live in that neighborhood and it's very, very quiet by and large. It gets very busy during certain times of day and then it gets real quiet after everybody's home from work, in my experience. I know because I take my dog out in the evenings for a walk, usually when other people have already taken their dogs home because my dog's shy. So we would need consensus from council on how we want to direct staff going forward on the 4-way stop. Councilor Kohler, you had your hand up?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One of the things I wonder, would the addition of a stop sign or other calming devices, would that be more of a psychological safety thing than a physical safety thing?
I don't think so. I think a stop sign is a true safety thing, okay? Whether it actually slows traffic down on Shoreline, I question that. There's not apparently, by the data, there's not a speeding problem there now. Will it make people go faster after they stop at the stop sign? Maybe, maybe not.
But it definitely would consume more fuel by stopping and starting.
That is true.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the next stop sign down is at Cummings and Shoreline. Just
That's correct.
For folks who are not familiar with the neighborhood, so you're coming from Shoreline at Chemawa heading southbound. They're talking about Dearborn, which is another heavily used east-west, but the one that has the stop sign is at 4-way at Cummings. Rafael kind of does this funny thing through there.
Yeah, that's correct. There are no stop signs on Shoreline between Chemawa and Cummings. That's correct.
Yep.
In fact, there's no more stop signs south of Cummings on Shoreline until you get to Wayne Drive. or actually you get to Rivercrest, but by that time, Shoreline turns into Wayne Drive.
Yeah, it's a very
With a
sharp
90-degree
left.
corner, but yeah.
Right, it's a very sharp left.
Right.
At the end of Shoreline, you make that sharp left. Counselor Starr?
So I just want to clarify, when you ask if there's been any accidents, is that the police respond to? Because do they respond to every accident?
There are no crashes that have been reported in that intersection that I'm aware of. Doesn't mean there haven't been something there, they just haven't been reported.
Thank you. I'm just curious, I still haven't heard a reason why we wouldn't put in the stop signs for a safety reason, that other than it, I'm all for, with all due respect to the traffic engineering, I also know that a few years ago, there was a traffic study done on River Road, and we didn't have a speeding problem. I disagree with that.
It's getting a lot more crowded.
I will say that in my career, in my experience, speeding, based on the data that I've seen and the studies that I've seen over my many years, are more often than not a perceived problem than an actual problem. Now, there's a lot of discussion about 85th percentile speed and what the safer speed is and all of that. And historically, the studies have used 5 miles an hour over the posted speed as a safe speed. Okay, and that's what I'm quoting my experience on. Is that the right number? I don't know. I'm not an expert. Should it be 3 miles an hour? Should it be 8 miles an hour? I really don't know. But all I'm saying is, in the studies I've done, and we've done a number of them locally with city staff, those cars are going 40, 45 miles an hour. No, they're not. They're going 32 miles an hour. So a lot of times in my experience, the speeding problem is a perceived problem more than an actual problem. Not that there's not an actual problem, it's just more often more perceived than actual.
Thank you, but I still, all due respect, I'm not sure it's a perceived problem in our city.
Counselor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One of the things that came up in the testimony is the lack of alternatives. I mean, we had talked about speed bumps, we talked about speed tables early on in the conversation. Now we're hearing about these speed cushions. I know that, the flashing signs that have kind of gone from neighborhood to neighborhood are also an alternative. But what other alternatives do we have? And again, if safety is as much a perception as anything, how can we make our West Kaiser neighborhoods feel safe?
I think the most effective way to slow traffic down is to narrow the roadways, narrow the travel lanes. Okay? I believe that Sunset Avenue is a pretty prime example of that. When that was widened and the shoulder widening was added, when we striped the white lines and striped the white lines at, I think it was 21 feet apart, so it's 10 and a half feet, it feels narrow. So that makes people slow down. There's been other areas in the city we've done that, where we've strategically narrowed the travel lanes down. And it's been pretty darn effective in making traffic slow down because people don't feel like they can go as fast. A prime example, Hawthorne in Salem, okay? Young student was killed a number of years ago as he was walking to school. That street was not improved. It had turnpike section, barely a shoulder to walk on. Salem came in and rebuilt that road, put in curbs, gutters, sidewalks, and made it safe, okay? They also built it to their street standards, okay? They're very wide lanes, very wide bike paths, very wide sidewalks with a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. I don't know about anybody else in this room. I have one heck of a time driving 25 on Hawthorne because it's so wide, it's so open. It's really, really difficult. I use that from a personal experience, okay? If they would have built that, narrow the lanes down, it would have by default slowed the traffic down, made people feel uncomfortable to go faster. Short of that, in an established street like Shoreline, I'm not sure what you do. I really don't. There are some radical things that could be done. We could stripe a bike path along that road, take up some pavement for bike lanes. But guess what? No parking. All the houses on Shoreline would lose their parking. I don't think that would go over very well. Short of something like that, I really don't know what you do. It's a difficult thing to address in established neighborhoods.
The other thing that parking on Shoreline does is actually narrow the street. There's a couple of places where you get the turns, and people have complained about that for a long time. But you want to slow traffic down, have parking on both sides, and it makes Shoreline feel a lot narrower.
See, part of the problem with Shoreline from Shamawa to Cummings, that northern section, that's an 80-foot right-of-way, not a 60-foot right-of-way. That's an unusually wide right-of-way. I think when that was platted way back in the days when the county was in control of this area, I think there was a vision that was going to be a north-south collector, or north-south connector, I should say, like a river road. Clearly, it didn't develop that way. So you've got, by default, because of that wider right-of-way, you've already got a wider street. We wouldn't today build Shoreline Drive that wide from curb to curb. So.
Well, there was mentioned a little bit ago about those flashing lights regarding when you go too fast over a particular speed. Those can, we've installed those now permanently on some streets. Is that a possibility for Shoreline?
It's a possibility. We actually have two that are portable.
Well,
They
we
look
have them on our street.
They look permanent.
Oh.
But they're portable. They were purchased actually by the police department. And we worked with them over the years on where to place them. We've moved them 2 or 3 times that I'm aware of. Currently, they are on Lock Haven, west of River Road, okay? Solar powered. Those are, quote, temporary.
Oh.
We put them in more permanent because we knew they were going to be there a while. We could add some more of those around the city. I know from my standpoint as a driver, they're effective. They make me slow down. The problem with those, if you will, is solar coverage. Trees block the solar panel, the batteries don't charge, they don't work as good. So we have to be strategic about where we place them. We tried them up on Shamawa Road, northeast. They couldn't, the trees were blocking the sun too much. They didn't work as well. That's something that could be done. Effectiveness overall, I don't have any studies or anything I can point to other than to say, I know for me, they make me slow down.
Well, I think they've been used more and more, and they are pretty flexible in terms of designing where you put them for effectiveness, and that might be a first step before putting that four-way stop, because I do remember people coming in complaining after a stop sign was put in, talk about the noise. And this is, I think, predates almost everybody on council, because that is a thing. You get every single vehicle stopping and then starting up again, and it is, the busier the street, the more the noise happens. As a first step, would council be comfortable with putting in the flashing lights regarding the speed that would notify a driver that they're over the speed limit?
Yes.
Councilor?
Oh, sorry.
Councilor Starr?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think as a first step, but I would request that we calendar a report back from the neighborhood association if that's helped. Because in regards to the perceived problem, I was told by a mentor a long time ago that people's perception is their reality. And so if people are perceiving this as a safety issue, that's their reality. So I do want to calendar a circle back, follow up with the neighborhood association, and maybe 2 to 3 months after those have been installed. If that's amenable to the neighborhood association.
I think it'd be a first step to, because these would be easy to install, and they would be able to see how they work, if they are being able to address the speed at which people travel on Shoreline. I'm up there frequently, and just personally. Councilor Kohler?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I know Sergeant Leday isn't here, but I wondered again how Chief feels about this particular situation and what he might recommend.
In particular, you mean the stop signs at Dearborn?
That's the first topic, yes.
Stop sign or even the traffic table and how that would affect emergency vehicles and such.
Yeah, well, for me, the Cummings lane traffic table thing is easier. I think it's a must-do. It's not going to slow fire that much, I mean, seconds. Put it right underneath that crosswalk, right in front of the school. I know what the data says. I also know that Cummings Lane is a duck pond for catching speeders. So I don't know how those things relate or don't relate, but I'm with Councilor Starr on that. As far as on Shoreline, the stop signs, I acquiesce to the discussion at West Kaiser surrounding that. Yeah, I can't advise you one way or the other. I support them in their request because they're the ones that live there. Part of that conversation, however, at that meeting was the same thing Bill spoke of. The stop-start is going to affect those neighbors that live right there. It won't affect them so much on Cummings Lane because they already deal with the stop-start right there at the light. I might remind you, I think Mayor may have spoken of it, when the speed tables were put in on Keizer Road decades ago, the first one off of Verda, it's right in front of some homes in a denser residential area, and we end up removing that speed table because of the stopping and starting. Yeah. Now again, I'm using that as a reference point for the stop signs being installed at Shoreline Dearborn. I still think we should put the speed table in at Cummings.
No?
Well, I think we'd be foolish not to listen to him.
So on the first issue, regarding the stop signs at Shoreline, do the flashing speed at strategic points along Shoreline, and circle back with the neighbor association on that, because again, stop signs are easy to install, but if we want to find a way that we can effectively regulate speed without negatively impacting those four neighbors in particular. We have a new resident on the northeast corner. They just moved in. Councilor Starr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I just want to make sure we're not taking them off of Lock Haven to move them to the new location. I just want this on the record.
Good point, but I think
You stole my question.
Do not
please do not move them.
Well, the question is this.
Yes.
Do I buy an additional set or do I move Lock Haven? Please,
Don't
let me
move Lock.
finish.
Okay, go ahead.
Temporarily and evaluate the effectiveness. These things might be $15,000 a piece, folks. They're not cheap. So I'll take direction. I have not priced them recently. The ones that are on Lock Haven, the police department got, I don't know how they did it, but they got them for like $5,000 a piece. It was like ridiculous, cheap.
Can you work your magic again?
So, I mean, I'll do whatever council directs me, but understand, they're not cheap. And so if I need to find the money in my street fund, I'll find it, if that's what you want me to do. The other option is to move the ones on Lock Haven temporarily, evaluate the effectiveness, and then act accordingly. It's up to you.
Right now with school starting, I am very hesitant to move anything off Lock Haven. We have 2 schools and parents are just getting used to driving their kids back. And I don't know about the rest of all y'all, but moving them off of Lock Haven gives me the heebie-jeebies. Councilor Starr, Reed.
And it seems to me too that if they don't end up working there, there are plenty of other places we can put them.
These are not going to be wasted.
It's fine.
Okay. Are we clear on that one?
I'll take my direction and act accordingly.
Okay.
I just want to put out what the options are there.
On the speed table, thank you for the recommendation. And however you want to engineer that to be effective, tables, bump, whatever it is, none of us are traffic engineers, but I think, again, I live right there. And I couldn't agree more, put it right where the crosswalk is. That's already a natural spot where people hopefully are looking, and if they're not looking, we want them to look. To cross safely straight into the school. It is a really weird, for anybody who doesn't live in West Kaiser, Delight does this jog thing and right at the school. It is not straight across. But leading into the school, I think, is already a natural spot. And then if we can work with the property owner on the south side of the street to improve that so it's easier to get to that side of the table, because right now it is not. It is, it's gravel and it's uneven and it's not accessible at all. And it's not inviting to go to that space to cross. So if it's right of way, yahoo. If it's not, that property owner has children and they may be very open to that conversation about what it would take to improve that corner to make it easy to walk, roll with strollers, mobility devices, to use that coming from the south side going north.
Just want to make sure I understood the corner you're talking about. You're talking about the southwest, southeast corner.
Southwest.
That's what I thought. Okay, that's what I had pictured. I just want to make sure I had it right. Okay.
Yep. Any questions or comments on that? Okay. Do we?
I just want to make sure that meets what they're.
Not at this time. We've really worked hard to make sure that we're going to take this in a stepwise fashion. So yes, there will be reporting back. And I think that was the main thing. We want to make sure that with both of these improvements, do they do what we intended for them to do? And then we will definitely be reporting back on both.
So just so I'm clear and where I'm going with these solar speed displays, we want to target the stretch of Shoreline near Dearborn, yes?
Yes, I think there's probably a couple of spaces in there because it is such a long stretch and it is wide.
Okay.
You know, look at that, but also look at the tree cover because you're absolutely right.
And that's why I want to make sure I'm looking at the right stretch of Shoreline, near Dearborn.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So Dearborn going westbound, you know, the traffic is generally pretty light. I would agree with the neighbors there.
Okay.
I mean, that I live just north of that is where I live, but it's Shoreline during certain times of day get really busy. We good? Mr. Johnson.
Madam Mayor, if you're not going to do a formal motion, I think you need to make sure you have consensus on this. You are pushing it to take direct action by staff.
Okay. Do we have consensus from council on these two issues? Yes. I'm getting head nods rather than try to craft a motion and get it wrong.
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Item 8B, which is a waiver of the community center rental fees, Marion County Reentry breakfast. Ms. Davis, is that yours?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. As you heard Commissioner Cameron earlier, the Marion County Reentry breakfast is scheduled to be in the community center on October 27th. And they are requesting a waiver of the fees. The council has waived the fees for this event in the past, and I know they greatly appreciate our support. So the event, we estimate it would be about $800 for the fee, plus the refundable security cleaning deposit of $1,500. Event staff costs are about $150 and included in that rental rate. I can answer any questions if you have any questions on that, but we recommend that you waive all fees, deposit and rental fee.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions on the staff report or the request? Council President Smith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the Kaiser City Council approve a waiver of the community center rental fee and community center refundable security deposit for the Marion County Reentry Initiative breakfast event on October 27th, 2022.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Kaiser City Council approve a waiver of the community center rental fee and community center refundable security deposit for the Marion County Reentry Initiative breakfast event on October 27th, 2022. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously. That was the easiest one of the night. Council President Smith, would you please read out the items on tonight's consent calendar?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. There are 4 items. Item A, Resolution authorizing the city manager to award and enter into a contract with Schneider Water Services for Reed's well replacement well. Item B, resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with HNB Painting Company for cleaning and resealing the exterior block walls of the Civic Center. Item C is approval of the August 8th, 2022 work session minutes. And item D, approval of the August 15th, 2022 regular session minutes.
Thank you very much. Are there any polls? I don't see any. Council President Smith.
I move the Kaiser City Council approve the consent calendar items A, B, C, and D.
Second?
The consent calendar has been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Motion passes unanimously. Other business. This time is provided to allow the mayor, city council members, or staff an opportunity to bring new or old matters before the council that are not on tonight's agenda. Does city staff have any other business this evening before we go to updates? Mr. Wood.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I actually have two items. Last Thursday, the Community Diversity and Engagement Committee met, and they did make a motion to recommend to the council that we recognize Indigenous People Day. That is coming up October 10th, 2022. We will come back with a more formal resolution at the next meeting that we can present to you. I just wanted to make you aware of that motion that was made. In addition, I wanted to follow up on the Community Prosperity Funds grant that we had received. As a reminder, that's $15,000 for the next 2 years that we received from Marion County. I need a little bit of clarity as we started to dig into the details. We wanted to get at least some consensus as to what types of projects we would be able to fund with this. The copy of the resolution indicates this is we can use these funds towards pre-development work studies and infrastructure for food truck pod. Really the question is, does this include the actual food truck itself or just the infrastructure that would surround that, such as electrical work, plumbing, concrete work? So that really is the question that I have for you that I'm hoping to get some kind of consensus. Based off of the consensus, we may have to bring back a revised resolution. So the question is, can we use these community prosperity grant funds for the purchase or partial purchase of a food truck? Or is this really strictly for use with the infrastructure that would surround that?
So I'm going to take the first one first. Thank you for the recommendation from the Community Diversity Engagement Committee. I will consider that a formal request for a proclamation, and I will work on that. Yes, absolutely bring it back as an amendment to our resolution for the annual list, and I appreciate the work on that, and I will already put that on my list. I appreciate that work. On the food pod, food truck question, the original intent, as I recall, and council correct me if I'm wrong, was for River Road business or property owners to be able to prepare sites for food trucks to be able to conduct business. This would be, as I understand it, a change from the preparing these properties to be able to have food trucks there to plug and play, to actually the development of, purchase of, or retrofit of a truck to establish a business. That's what I recall. Questions, comments? I'm seeing the wheels turn. Councilor Starr?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm recalling conversation from the Community Diversity Engagement Committee recommendation, and they wanted, their recommendation when this was brought forward was for the funds to be used for individuals to start or expand their small businesses by providing or building out a food truck in the effort to promote BIPOC business owners and building out their businesses. That's what I recall, at least the input and the recommendation from the CDEC committee. They wanted business owners to be able to access those funds.
Okay, we've got two recollections. Oh, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That was, my recollection was that that recommendation was before the council, but the council chose the more infrastructure-related one in terms of indirectly helping food carts by having a place for them to go. One of the difficulties of having it expanded to actually the food truck or food cart itself is, of course, that's a mobile asset. So I guess the question would be, can a non-Kaiserite apply for that? And are you going to try to restrict them in terms of where they would go? If not, then it is not an issue, but that'd be one of the downsides to doing it. It is fairly restrictive, though, the way it's currently located, because it doesn't, and it was specific, though. That was not an error, I don't think, at the time. So if you can, you certainly can revisit it.
So if, right now, if a Kaiser resident wanted to establish or expand or improve having a food truck or trucks, that was something that the CEDC was talking about, and we did change it to the physical location just so we'd have more spaces for food trucks to be able to do business, because we have precious few right now that are available for that are plug and play. Councilor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My recollection is slightly different. I thought we had talked about specifically Kaiser Rapids Park or the transit station in those areas that we would build up as infrastructure and make available to food truck owners. So I guess we can ask Tracy to kind of go back and get the minutes on those. But that was my understanding, is that's where we came down, was providing that infrastructure and then basically providing a place and then letting the entrepreneurs do their thing.
So now we have three people with three recollections, so let me turn this back to Mr. Okay, we'll go for four. Mr. Wood, would you please come back with, go back to the minutes, work with Ms. Davis on getting us the minutes on what was said, also the minutes from the CEDC on their recommendations, so we can be prepared for a conversation on this question.
I can do that, yes.
All right, thank you very much. Okay. The other, Councilor Kohler?
May I thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Witham, do you have recollection of what we were going to do with the infrastructure part of that?
Thank you, Councilor Kohler. I actually was not at the meeting that you discussed the $15,000 for, so I learned about it after the fact.
But we had talked about infrastructure in a couple different places that we could put that.
I mean, previously there has been discussions about that, about food pods in general, and a desire to see some of those built up. But I know, as I said, I wasn't at the actual meeting, so I don't know what everybody said. I know Mr. Wood had shared that community prosperity funds, which we had used before for some small business loans in the midst of COVID, that was going to be kind of reworked into being a grant kind of process for food trucks and food pods specifically. So I was under the impression it was the private business owner wanting to do a food pod, but that's...
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Thank you for letting me follow up.
All right, thank you. So you know what questions we have. All right, thank you very much. Under other business, I have received a question, and it started with the fact that the CEDC meeting night changed, and Councilor Starr can't be in two places at the same time. I know she's very talented, but that does reach the limit, and she is our appointee to the Southeast Kaiser Neighborhood Association. There have been some questions because the Southeast Kaiser Neighborhood Association has been having some difficulty getting, more than a couple people there, or getting, getting more people involved. So what I want to do is ask that the leadership from Southeast Kaiser to reach out to them, City Manager, if you would, to help with, and then our current liaisons, which I believe are Councilor Kohler and Councilor Starr, where are we at with Southeast Kaiser? What is the current status? What are the plans for invigorating that group? And just come back with some ideas and recommendations maybe, but at least some some clarification. In the meantime, once we have that information, then we'll look at making another appointment for, because I'd like to do 2 people per neighbors association, hoping that your schedule allow for at least 1 person to be at each one. So we'll look at swapping that out. But I think the larger question has been about Southeast Kaiser and, just how strong they are and how can we help them strengthen. Okay? So thank you on that. Staff updates. Mr. Brown?
Madam Mayor and Council, I just wanted to give an update on the turf fields. We have the first layout of the site plan, and Mr. Lawyer and I are meeting with the engineers this week, and we'll be scheduling a meeting with the stakeholder group very shortly.
Fantastic. And
Moving
if people
right
are
along.
interested in being part of the stakeholder group, do they email you?
Yep.
Okay, and that's browna@kaiser.org. All right, thank you. Mr. Wood?
Nothing here, thank you.
Ms. Davis? Chief? Mr. Lawyer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple things. One, I wanted to just make sure everybody understands the splash fountain is now closed for the season. Sunday was its last day. We had a good run. We only had one real bad equipment issue that we had to stop running for all season long, so that's a good thing. The other thing I want to remind everybody is I still don't know if we're going to get white striping on our streets this year. The county still has not acquired enough paint. They got yellow for us, thankfully, but the white remains to be seen. We may not see white striping at all until next spring. So the benefit is we got all the reflective pavement markers down on all the arterials citywide, so they're there for the winter. But unfortunately, because of the Eastern European conflict, the paint availability is greatly diminished. So as soon as they get some, if they can, the weather holds, they'll do it. Otherwise, it's not going to happen this year.
But we have the reflectors.
We have the reflectors, yes.
Which we
But
love.
but they're not on, they're on the arterials, minor, on the major and minor arterials. They're not on all the collectors, and they're not on any local streets that have white striping on them. So everything else, stop bars, legends, the arrows, the words, all that stuff will be refreshed and has been during the process of finishing that up. But the actual striping may not happen.
Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Witham?
I have nothing tonight, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
All right, thank you. Council reports. Councilor Duran?
I have nothing tonight.
All right, thank you. Councilor Starr?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just attended the community dinner, the Community Diversity Engagement Committee meeting, which Mr. Wood already reported on their recommendation. And then, seems like forever ago, but attended the Northwest Kaiser neighborhood meeting. And then attended the last summer concert of the summer at Rotary Amphitheater, JFK.
Okay. Thank you very much. Council President Smith?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My daughter gets married on Friday, so I haven't done anything but that. So my apologies if I look like I've been missing in action, but I've just got a few more checks to write and a few more days to get through, and happy.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Samantha,
yeah. Fantastic. Councilor Kohler?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just have a couple of things. Thank you for those that came and attended the Kaiser Community Dinner. We served just under 300 people. It was a great meal. They hand cut all the chicken, and it was a killer meal. Thank you very much for those that attended. I attended the Commissioners' Lunch in St. Paul with Councilor Reed. Thank you to the City of St. Paul for feeding us and paying for our meal. We appreciate that a whole bunch. It was a good meeting. Thursday, I attended the greeters with the ribbon cutting with Mayor Clark for IS Living, their employment offices, and where they also acknowledged, and they named it after a longtime employee, Steve Dent. That was really neat to attend and see that progress there. Wednesday, I attended Food for Thought with Mayor Clark and a couple others from the city. That's the last Wednesday of each month, at 7:15 in the morning at the Rec. If you have questions about what that is, or if that's something you'd like to attend, please contact Chief Teague, Mayor Clark, or myself, and we can talk to you about that. Thursday, the Northeast Neighborhood Association meeting, and part of the Community Diversity Engagement Committee. Sherry resigned at that neighborhood association meeting, so they just have a president right now, maybe a treasurer, but they're lacking some leadership there. And today attended the Stormwater Advisory Committee meeting. Great review and follow-up of the design standards. I want to shout out to Natalie Janey for the yeoman's work that she did with all that. She's a very valuable member of that committee, and we very much appreciate her. Great Willamette cleanup is coming October 15th at Kaiser Rapids Park. And a bunch of other things going on. This week, tomorrow's Clyde Creek Watershed Council. Thursday, I have the Volunteer Coordinating Committee. Thursday, I also have the Latino Business Alliance. Next Monday, I'm looking forward to the Parks Tour. And a very special congratulations to Mayor Clark on her recent retirement.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm enjoying the fact that I was able to turn off my work alarm for the first time in years. Councilor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So just a couple things, a couple of more events to add to the Stormwater Committee goings-on. There will be a Community Salmon Watch program event this Sunday. That will be at Bush Park from noon to 3. It's a family activity. Salem is bringing its orca. Yes, we're landlocked, but orca can still get there, so that will be a neat trick. That will be something to look forward to. And then there's also Trashy Tuesday on September 20th at Wallace House Park. So West Kaiser, if you could make sure and get that on your Facebook page, I'd appreciate that as well. Those are two other events connected with the Stormwater Advisory Committee. In addition to what Councilor Kohler has said, we have Kaiser Homegrown Theater is going into its second weekend of Music Man, and that will be Friday night, Saturday afternoon at 2 because of a football game, and Sunday afternoon at 2. So you can get tickets for that on KaiserHomegrownTheater.org. A good chunk of the proceeds of that go to a featured nonprofit. Last weekend we had the dogs, the service dogs, and we had the Kaiser Closet, and we had the McNary Theater. And so this week we will be featuring 3 different nonprofits. And so that is a lot of fun. That is at the McNary Theater. And then we have the new YMCA facility. We have a tour for that coming up tomorrow. And that is all I have. I will let Angelica talk about the school start because that's been taking up both of our business. But after Councilor Herrera, I assume that she will have that opportunity.
Absolutely. Councilor Herrera.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And Councilor Kohler's right. That was a good meal at the dinner. There was great chicken. We had a great event on the 20th, I believe, the Kennedy Neighborhood Family Council, which we have 2 members here, Jackie and Tammy. We had a haircuts and hot dogs. And we had supplies, school supplies for kids, and it was great. I mean, the Church on the Hill did a great job sponsoring. Kudos to them. Their staff was incredible. And I want to shout out to Tangled Ends, who sent 10 hairstylists down there to do haircuts. And believe me, they were busy. Somebody said we did 80. I think we did over 80 haircuts myself. But, wow. And then also thank you to one of my star students, A.G. the barber, who came here one time when he won the national haircutting. He had his own, he volunteered up there, and he's an incredible kid. Also, Lorenzo, my good friend, Lorenzo the barber. They came together, Tammy, and you guys did a great job. And like I said, kudos to everybody. It was our first event, and we feel really good about it because we served a lot of folks, so that was great. Also attended the Mexican Fiesta, which was 62nd year. And just so you know, my dad was one of the founders of it, way back in the 60s. And that was a lot of fun, a lot of folks there. The other thing is, I have, let's see what I got here. Oh, boy. First day of school. Watch out for the kids out in the streets, by the way. The Beavers did really well this weekend. The Ducks, not so well. McNary, not so well. But, we're going to follow them and support them as much as we can. I'd like to see more folks support McNary's opening here at the high school here. Also have coming up on the 13th, the YMCA ribbon cutting. The 14th, People of Color Caucus. The 15th, oh gosh, I forgot, that's something on 15th. And the 16th is the Hispanic Heritage Breakfast here at the Convention Center, excuse me. And the last thing I wanted to say was I was really proud of the young man, the Boy Scout that came up here. And every time I have a Boy Scout come here, that's so awesome, and I appreciate that. And I think that's all I got. Upcoming, a lot of stuff, Liberty House, all these events. But also highlighted the event for Teresa Alonso Leon, which was over at Southeast Neighborhood. And that was incredible. There was a lot of folks there to thank her for her service. And we had a pretty good time. So thank you very much. That's all I got.
All right.
Oh yeah, one more thing, last thing.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome to Angelica. Sarmiento.
All right. Well, then I will go to you.
Oh, thank you. At McNary, currently, leadership is today. We had an event with NHS and peer navigators to welcome freshmen and accommodate them to McNary. So that was exciting to me, all the new classmates we'll be having. Sports, fall sports are starting. For example, football, as Ms. Reed said, there will be a football game soon. And then other activities, I will be sure to update. I'm sure leadership or NHS will be involved in some of them. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Well done. Just a couple of things to add to wrap it up for this evening. The League of Oregon Cities Women's Caucus met on the 16th, and they're getting ready for the meetings that will be at the League of Oregon Cities conference in October. That group continues to evolve and offer more and more opportunities for women leaders across the state that are members of city councils. Let's see, on the 23rd, SCATS, the Salem Kaiser Area Transportation Study met. We worked on the scoring criteria for projects for our region. We've been working on plans for the projects that we are currently working on for our region. The big problem that we're facing, like everybody else, is inflation just ate up any of the additional dollars that came through ARPA, and we're just wanting to make sure that projects that are started or scheduled to start get done. So those are our top priorities for all of the projects in our region. If they're already in the constrained list, we want to make sure they go to construction and are completed. We have a list of projects, like the Wheatland project that I'm fighting for to get dollars, but quite frankly, unless we see inflation go down or some of the costs of products go down, that might be a little longer to get funded than we had hoped for. But that is a priority project to get funded for Kaiser. Congratulations to the conclusion of the Oregon State Fair. Yeah. A lot of folks in our community were guests there, they were exhibitors, they worked there. That is a huge employer for that 10-day run, and actually longer than that for setup and tear down. It was very well attended this year. I can't wait to see the numbers. We had a great time with our family, and I hope all of you did as well. On the 27th, Coffee with Kathy, we did the virtual, which should be on the channel by now, and then we met in person over at McNary Restaurant. Of course, we're competing against all the other things going on in the community, but it was a lot of fun. And we will be doing the next one on September 17th. It was a pleasure to be at the ribbon cutting for the IS Living headquarters for employment services. It's over across from Fred Meyer. I know it's in Salem, but hey, it's on our border, and we don't mind supporting all of our neighbors in the North Salem area. And this is a fantastic organization providing essential services for people with different abilities within our community. Also on the 30th was a retirement celebration for a good friend so many people in our community. There's Anna Olivia. Yeah, I just blanked. What? Yeah, Palacio, yeah, thank you. I'm Anna Olivia. Anyway, it was a fantastic gathering. I'm sure, unfortunately, I wasn't feeling well that day and I decided I would not go and possibly share something I shouldn't. So anyway, I want to wish her the very best and thank her and the organization for so much support for the Salem Kaiser Coalition for Equality. They have done fantastic work for Latino families in our community for a long time. And we wish her well in retirement, but something tells me she'll just be tired again doing other things that are important. Let's see, coming up is the Legislative Committee for the Council of Governments, continuing to work on the legislative priorities for our region going into the long session in January, and also keeping our legislative candidates informed about what's important to the Marion, Polk, and Yamhill areas. On Latino Business Alliance, I'm assigned for this Thursday morning. I'm going to need a substitute, so if somebody else is available to go, I am not able to go this Thursday morning. So let me know. This Thursday. You'll be there? Okay, thank you. Councilor Herrera. The Oregon Mayors Association Resource Committee will be meeting also later on the 8th. This Thursday, and the next Wednesday is the SEDCOR, which is the Strategic Economic Development Corporation annual meeting. And I'll be attending that as well. And the Homeless Alliance will be having an additional board meeting on the 15th to take care of some of the business we were not able to conclude at our last meeting. There's just so much going on, especially right now with the notice of funding opportunity. We have organizations that have applied for these federal funds. They are finishing up, tweaking all of their applications. That is due tomorrow. And then review and ranking. And again, HUD gave us such a huge timeline, she said very sarcastically, for getting these in and turning them in for funding. But we hope to be very, very successful. Our applicants have a history of delivering fantastic work, and we are very hopeful that we will once again score very well, and more importantly, bring money back to serve people in our community. That is what I have. All right. Agenda input. We will meet next Monday as announced for the Parks Tour. We will leave here at 6 o'clock. On the 19th of September, we will meet at 7 p.m. in regular session. And then on October 3rd, 7 p.m. in regular session, I will be missing that meeting, and Council President Smith will be chairing that meeting of the Kaiser City Council. Is there anything else for the good of the order this evening? Councilor Herrera.
Thank you very much. I forgot, when you said legislative priorities for the Council of Governments.
Yes.
I was on the strategic 5-year plan for the League of Oregon Cities, which we had 10 members. And just for the council here, we prioritized our legislative agenda for the whole state. And it was a great experience, by the way, just being part of that. These guys are incredible. And in our high priority, we put infrastructure financing and resiliency, property tax reform, infrastructure funding, support for needing for housing, and this is throughout the whole state, by the way. Also measure 110 out shortcomings, economic development for incentives, and community resiliency and wildfire planning. So those are some of our priorities, and we have a great team of lobbyists for the league. I'm gonna miss being on that group because they get stuff done. They really do. So, and you know what? You've been there, so. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. And I apologize for not having Anna Olivia's name in front of me. Anna Olivia Palacio Angulo, Salem Kaiser Coalition for Equality. So happy retirement to her as well. All right, I believe we have concluded the business for the evening. The time is 9:41 and we are adjourned.
They're not always that long.